Welcome to Nourishing the Mother, an inspired conversation space between Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner on the journey of motherhood through the common thread of parenting, relationship, and sexuality as a path to consciousness.
We keep our conversations honest, our experiences real, and our philosophies exploratory. We believe that in order to raise incredible humans, we first have to raise ourselves. We know that in order to rock the family, you've got to nourish the mother. If you are here, you care about paving a path of conscious and intentional motherhood, connected with yourself and your gifts, and also illuminating your children in theirs so we may raise more whole humans who can impact this world in a more humane way.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively, head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper. And for all live-streamed pre-release podcasts and all our free content, head over to our free Facebook group, Nourishing the Mother with Bridget Wood and Julie Tenner. We are Julie Tenner and Bridget Wood, and we are so grateful you're here.
Hello and welcome to Nourishing the Mother. I'm Bridget Wood.
And I'm Julie Tenner. And today's podcast is when you're asked to crumble your identity and instead you're holding on. And I think this not only will have some juicy points, tips and starter points for you, but is such a wonderful conversation following on from last week's episode. And just because we cannot hear enough about the process of identity crumbling. Where do we hear that in the world in a way that frames it as steps that you can consciously take at the same time as steps that you can consciously surrender to, and a process that's meaningful and purposeful? And the more we could do that, I wonder how much more wholesome we would feel.
Yeah. And just, I think also too, like how wholesome and just how normal our periods of uncertainty, and what the fuckness, how normal that is.
Yeah.
And like a signal that something's wrong with you.
Yeah. Totally.
Thank you for normalizing it.
So where we want to start this conversation is when you find yourself here and you're going through an identity crumble, but you're having a lot of trouble letting go of the past self and stepping into the new self, or, sometimes it's like the baby bird's pushed out of the nest. You're not even consciously choosing this, higher self might be, but let's say human you feels like you're being forced out of the nest, or you've been kicked out of the nest and you're trying to, find your wings as you're falling and pretty sure you're about to die as you, crash to the bottom. So often when we're there, what we're seeking is, I feel so disconnected from myself, from my partner, from my children, from my life, from whatever, right? There's this feeling of I'm disconnected. I long, I crave to be in connection and back in meaningful, purposeful togetherness, feeling of comfort, safety, home, and support within myself, my body, my life, my partner, my relationship, my children. Right?
Everything. I just want it to all be perfect. And
I want it to just come back into the comfort zone. But where we want to take this conversation is, one, how do you get yourself back there? But two, often what actually the holding on is that it will look like self-righteousness. And that can be a hard pill to swallow and a tough one to spot.
Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes self-righteousness can masquerade as integrity. Right. And choosing yourself or, or believing that you're, here to change the world, and that everybody else around you isn't on the same wavelength. I don't know, pick your kind of thing. And so that's sort of why it can be hard to spot.
Yes.
But there's some clues that self-righteousness leaves us, aren't there?
Well, this is where we want to take it.
Yeah.
So when we opened up this call and we had a little riff, Bridgie and I, about where we wanted to take this conversation, Bridgie so perfectly brought out 2 points in spotting self-righteousness. And one of those was spot your thinking. And one of those was spot where you're not in your heart. So we just want to spell those out a little bit more. Yeah. So the thinking one, let's just spot self-righteousness for. It looks and sounds and tastes and smells like a moral high ground where you're better than.
Yes. Yeah, so self-righteousness involves you putting yourself on some kind of pedestal and somebody else below you in terms of their worldview, in terms of their thinking, in terms of how they live, their practices. There's a a leveling going on, and that's very much a head thing that you're doing. It's not an act of the heart.
Yes. So we want to spell this out. Look for where you are putting yourself, your choices, your belief systems, the way that you see the world and what is important to you, your children, your children's development, your children's emotional well-being, children's psychological well-being, whatever it is, where you're putting your way of viewing as better than someone else's way of being, doing, or viewing. So just watch for when you're doing that and just start to become conscious of where you're playing the role of moral high ground. Because you might sit here and say to us, I don't put myself above anybody, Bridget and Julie. One of my core identities is that I am humble and connected in my life and that I walk from a heart space. It does not mean you're not jumping into your head and seeking the evidence around you to prove your current bias right, and everybody else is wrong, and that your way is the best way, and you'll have all of the evidence and the reasons and all of the things. Right?
Because sometimes you'll be consuming just the right amount of information, sets of quotes, writers, Instagram posts, whatever it is, to reinforce that heart-centered, humble, way of life is the most conscious, thoughtful, loving way to live as well, right? But if we keep consuming any kind of or reading bias, then we don't actually grow wisdom. We just reinforce our polarizations, and it makes it harder and harder to be around people who have different values and different viewpoints because we've spent so long reinforcing our own.
Yeah, and actually in and of itself makes it harder to live our life. Because the more there's them and us, the harder it is to walk through your life.
Yeah. And feel love.
Yeah.
Because you just feel opposition.
Totally. And one of the points that you and I, Bridgie, talk about often is that actually when we're talking about the humility that is involved in needing to balance your self-righteousness out to come back into a heart-centered space, is to recognize that both possibilities are equally true. And if you really sunk into that, there's a total vulnerability involved in that. And it's often that vulnerability that we'll run from. And so instead we'll, fly the flag of our belief system.
Yeah. And it's just so important to go there, I think, too, because otherwise what we do is we create disconnection. Like we spend our lives creating the very thing that we say that we're not doing, right? Like we say we're all about connection or like the heart, but actually in doing that, we're breeding disconnection from the very things that lead us deeper into our heart. The heart which knows actually there's so many ways to be right here. And you are a mass of contradictions.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Can you love that?
Yeah. I often think about this just in terms of, I'm never going to get it right, but I'll paraphrase that sort of famous Rumi's quote of, there's 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the ground. And I always think, yeah, there's 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the ground in anything. Yeah,
like there's 1,000 ways to be spiritual. There's 1,000 to have a healthy relationship. There's 1,000 ways to be a good friend. There's 1,000 ways to give your art to the world, to love your children, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So just recognizing self-righteousness will kick you out of your heart because it takes you out of your heart where you're the same as everyone and everything. There's 1,000 ways to kneel and kiss the ground. I can love you and I can love me, like we were talking about in last week's podcast. I can be in the eye of the storm and I can love me and I can love you. There is no separation, right? So when we're in the heart and we're in true humility, that's where we are. Self-righteousness kicks us out of our heart and into our head where we start strategizing. No, I'm right, you're wrong. We're, looking for evidence. We're proving the self right. We're trying really hard to step away from the vulnerability that says you could be equally right. And therefore that would mean, what about me and my choices? If they were equally right, if they ended up, 2 + 8 is the same as 5 + 5, we both get to 10. What does that mean?
Yeah.
About me, my path, my choices. So this is where the identity part comes into it, right? So if we recognize that we're here, that we're in self-righteousness, that we're flicking in and out of it, and it's creating a lot of disconnection and out of our heart, which is where we want to be, then how do we get back into connection? So one of those body practices, Bridgie, you had said at the start, was to recognize when you have that manic, on fire energy moving and coursing through your body.
Yeah, there's like a speed to it, I think. There's like this, you start to talk faster. There's like, it's almost like you can feel the energy running through your veins and you're wanting to do something with it. So the first thing to do is to slow it down. To slow down that train of thought, to slow down your tone on your voice, and to just go, I'm running this manic, like almost like needing to prove something.
Yeah.
Kind of energy.
Yeah. Yeah. Needing to prove something and needing to crush someone.
Yeah. Just a brief break to the podcast to let you know what's happening in our world. So in bridgetwood.life, you will find Reimagining Motherhood, which is a beautiful membership space where you can come into and really be held and seen in community of other women who are really seeking to expand themselves in motherhood and really be at that intersection of where conscious parenting and the whole woman collide. So it's not either or, it is this beautiful melting pot of the two so that you can really dig deep and expand who you are on this mothering journey. And what about you, Jules?
Is Queen School. So Queen School is now an online course with 4 full modules that you are self-paced and work your way through, combined with 12 months of really stretching that out as I help you really integrate, embody, and move through the blocks so that you can literally become Queen School in your life. So Queen School is all about connection, pleasure, sensuality, magnetic communication, feminine energy, and embodiment with me over now a beautifully integrated 12-month experience. So you can find out more at julietenner.love.
And I mean, I think we'll get to this point too, but it's a tool. Self-righteousness is a tool that we use and a strategy. It's not right, it's not wrong. We're not demonizing it here. But if you don't know and have awareness around how self-righteousness plays out for you in your own like mind and life, then it can run you because you're not aware then of how it's disconnecting you from others, of how sometimes it's taking you away from what's actually really important to you because you're attached to your righteousness.
Because it's giving you a lot of benefits, right?
Yeah.
Like even in the running of, I'm so capable and he's so collapsible. I do everything, they do nothing. You know, these sorts of self-righteous polarizations.
We can derive a sense of worth from it. If we haven't found our worth in something else or anchored into something that we're really certain is a slow burn and a building of worth, or that we just have that inherent sense of worthiness, then self-righteousness can be really great as a good kick, right? Of like, look at all I've done and you're doing nothing. Look at all that I'm caring, that I'm giving. Look at how much I'm focused on solving this and you're just not even thinking about it, right? Like that accusatory tone, that sense of like, I've got this covered and what are you doing? Like that. It's like one-upmanship. And one-upmanship can give us energy too, right? Like it can wake us up. It can help us feel like we've got a mission to focus on. It can help us feel like we've got a sense of satisfaction. But if that process is by extension crushing the people around us and disconnecting us from the people that we love, then it's kind of wreaking havoc.
Yeah, we've got to recognize
it's ungoverned.
Right. We've got to recognize when a strategy is constructive and when a strategy is actually destructive for who we are and how we wish to live our current life and into our new identity.
Yeah.
Because the truth is that strategy might have worked absolutely brilliantly for you when you were in your family of origin and you were a child. It might have worked brilliantly for you to back yourself 110%, got you through some pretty hard times, I'll bet. To know you didn't need anyone else or anything else, that you were so completely competent and capable that you could go get that job, go achieve that, whatever. Amazing. It's worked so well for you. Love it. But then there's a point at which you might need to leave that strategy because you've grown too big for it. Like you as a soul will eventually outgrow the strategy. And so that's when you meet these identity crises where you realize everything that actually, truly a more integrated soul, you now at this age and moving forwards into your lifespan once holds true as a value in life, actually needs something a little different. Because it's destroying the very thing that you're wanting to create for future you because it's stuck in the past.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a strategy from old, smaller you.
And it's a strategy that's also supported by a whole bunch of neurochemistry that wants to keep it that way.
Yeah.
Right. So we've also had like grace for ourselves in the changing of that strategy, because that strategy has been initiated before you often even realize.
Yeah, totally.
Because it's just a neural pathway, right?
Yeah.
We just keep going.
I know. I think about this often. Like I actually enjoy this as a practice of going, what is my nervous system? Like what's my drug cocktail, my neurochemical cocktail that I was wired into and by back when I was born into a system, and in the system that I developed in and grew in, what was I wired for? Like, because on some level that represents love and safety to me, even if it's in its very foundation, it was not safe, which for me, it wasn't necessarily. There's part of me that always wants to, turn the right latch and key in my life now so that I return to that state because I know it. And there's a level of safety on a really deep level. And
even if it seems like it could blow your whole life up, there's kind of this weird, like, macabre kind of like
exactly
satisfaction in it, right?
Like, isn't it interesting to think about? So I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. So whenever I go through one of these crises, I recognize that actually what I want to do unconsciously, when everything's up for renegotiation and you're scrambling to work out exactly what your new footing is, you'll revert to what you know is safe. And when you're in a moment of crisis and upheaval in whatever way that looks like, that's really going to be what conscious, integral, integrity-driven, stable, grounded you is. That's like, I've got no feet on the ground. What am I holding on to?
Yeah.
That's old you. So I know when I get there, actually, what I'll always revert to is chaos. Because on some level, chaos is incredibly safe for me. I know chaos, right? If I think about my family, because I have thought about this for a while. Why do I feel so, like I have literally said, I fucking love the chaos of 4 kids and all of the shit. Like I fucking love that. I thrive in the manic chaos of that. Well, isn't that interesting? Because is this a value or is this a returning to original neurochemical hit up where my mother was manic chaos and so I can be there more easily,
Yeah, totally. And even thinking about, as you're saying that, like I've said to you before, like my nervous system can't handle what your nervous system can handle.
Yeah.
Right? Like that chaos that you're talking about.
Yeah.
It's because mine doesn't have that wiring. That learn an element of safety in that.
Right.
And so like you can go back there and go, no, I got this.
Exactly. But what will happen is that strategy I will use, and I will, if it's too calm and it's too like chill mode, there's part of me that if I'm going through a crisis like this, will want to just push the buttons to bring just enough. So I'll add in another thing. I'll up the ante on my life, what I want, what I'm achieving, I'll create, I'll attach and like sink my teeth into something that I think I'm really dissatisfied with in my relationship, just so I can re-experience the chaos. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're almost initiating another, like, that's your neurochemistry. Like, there's not enough chaos. I don't know. I don't feel safe in this calm. I don't feel safe in this, like smooth sailing, like this, calm waters.
Yes.
I need something to challenge me into chaos and govern myself through chaos again.
Yeah. So I'm always like, why do I need this chaos? Like you see people addicted to drama patterns. There's always a big fucking drama.
Yeah.
Why do you need that? Why is there always chaos in my life? Why do I need that? Why do I need this chaos right now is what I ask myself. Why do I need this right now? What am I trying to do here? Like, I just find that a really interesting line of, we've totally got off track, but what an interesting line of questioning.
Yeah, totally, because then you can start to go, gosh, like there's a pattern here. Like, it's intensity. Or, similarly, but conversely, why this collapse here?
Yes.
Because for others, it can be, gosh, I just can't like get out of the mud.
Yes.
Or I just can't rise to this. Why?
Yes. Yes. What part of you is comfortable here? Yeah. What part of you needs this to create just the perfect environment of safety for your primal nervous system?
Yeah.
Totally. So, let's bring us back on track here. Let's assume you notice that manic kind of energy. We want you to really get clear on what are the benefits that I'm getting out of this coping strategy. Like, how is this actually a co-creation that works for me, rather than me going, you're not enough, you're blah, and creating this rift between me and my partner or me and other. And instead of that spiral, what does it look like to go, hang on a minute. Like, this is a strategy of mine, my self-sufficiency to a fault, my have no needs self, my, thriving on the fact that I can fucking do it all in total chaos.
Another one is, that I reject myself so that the world can't reject me.
Yeah.
It's safer than feeling the sting of other rejection.
Yes, I'll get in there first. Yeah, like self-deprecating humor in a lot of ways, isn't it?
Yeah.
So just noticing that we have strategies that we have used in the past. And so asking, why is this strategy here? What am I gaining out of it? To balance your polarizations, but also to go, is this strategy working for the life that I want to live as I walk into this new identity? Or is this a strategy that I need to just kind of leave here and dismantle a little bit and loosen my grip on the identity that it's attached to?
Yeah.
So what we would love you to consider is slow down, channel the energy into more cathartic and constructive thinking, believing patterns, and bring your energy back into equilibrium where there is no them and us, there is no battle to be fought, that you can be in your heart and therefore open and available for connection.
Beautiful. I would also just, notice when you're in that manic state and you're looking for evidence, you're looking for the people to support you, you're looking for like things to open up to and reinforce. So notice actually what's happening in your physiology when you're going through that, because what happens is when people support our values, we feel warm, like the room feels warm. We feel warm in our body. We feel warm heart connection. We feel warmth with the person, and we open more. Whereas if we're around somebody or a space that's challenging our values, and we actually cool down to that person, feel cold in that space and want to close. And this can be really apparent when we're in self-righteousness, because we're naturally more in that polarization, and our physiology and space around us and how we orienting in that space will reflect that. And it's just great to notice, because then you can consciously do that questioning of like, oh, okay, I can see I'm talking to this friend because I know that they're going to back me up, or I'm seeking connection with that person because I want to feel safe in my values right now and safe in my righteousness. And just ask yourself, is this the path I want to go down? Is this the train I want to keep running along this track. You might want to because it's enough benefits for you and it feels good. There's no imperative to change. Sometimes we're really quite comfortable with it. But when it feels like it's no longer constructive and that we're needing a shift, then they're great questions to ask.
Perfect. So, Bridgie, what have you got going on in the world and how can we jump in?
Yeah, so Reimagining Motherhood. So it is the community space, an online membership for women who seek to really find a place for conscious parenting and the whole woman to collide to really empower their motherhood. And so we're working on embodying spaciousness for the next month or so. And so it's training, practices, circles on all things. How do I create more spaciousness in my body, in my world? And so that's what's happening. You can find out more at bridgetwood.life. And you, Jules?
Is All Things Queen School and Honey Club, where we have a beautiful online community that gather to talk all things relationship, feminine embodiment, sexuality, opening and awakening of yourself as a woman on a path that's deeply meaningful and inspiring to you. So you can find out more at julietenner.love.
Beautiful. Remember to nourish the woman, to rock the family.
And we'll see you next week when we continue to peel back the layers on your mothering journey.
Thank you so much for listening. We literally couldn't do this without you. Please share this podcast with anyone you think it would be medicine for.
If you desire to integrate your learnings practically and supportively into your life, then head on over to bridgetwood.life or julietenner.love to go deeper.
And if you feel like giving back a little to this free content, please rate us on iTunes or Facebook, all of which helps the podcast reach more mamas who need this type of tonic for the soul.